Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne Sharp World, where today we are taking a look at another relatively new Kizer model. You guys may have seen the unboxing of these guys, but I wanted to put a little extra time into the review process of these two because I really did like the aesthetics and design of this one and wanted to see if the actual functionality of the blade worked out as good as I thought it would. And I gotta say, I've been pretty impressed since I've been carrying this. And what we have here is the Kizer Bugai. Now, before I go any further into this review, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. Now, let's take a look at some overall specs on these knives right here. We have an overall length coming in at 7.2 inches, a blade length coming in at 3.11 inches, and a blade thickness coming in at 120 thousandths. Blade material on these guys is two options, kind of the same setup as the Kizer Aggressor. We have a black wash 3V blade, and then we also have a stone washed 154 CM blade. We have a drop point style blade that I think is a rather unique, very good looking drop point blade. We'll talk more about that when we get to the review portion of the blade. And we have a flat grind with a handle length coming in at 4.17 inches. Now, technically on this grind, it's a flat grind, but it is actually a compound grind because there's two different levels of grinds, I guess. At least I would consider this compound grind. If you disagree, if one has to be flat and one has to be hollow, let me know. But I'm pretty sure just two different grind angles classify as a compound grind, and a pretty interesting grind at that. We have a handle thickness at 523 thousandths. Handle material, as you can see, you have a black micarta option as well as a green micarta option. You cannot get these vice versa. You would have to buy both and do a scale swap if you wanted the green with the black. We have liner locks for the locking mechanism, and hooray lefties, these are left or right hand tip up carry. So there you go. You have another option, and in my opinion, a pretty damn good option at that. Weight coming in at 3.6 ounces on these guys with a price of $89 for the 3V version and $69 for the 154 CM version. I know on the Aggressor, I kind of favor the 154 CM, but I gotta say on these two, I really don't have a preference. I like both of them equally. Very, very nice pricing for these knives, in my opinion. No huge issues there. Size comparisons. Let's use the black one. It looks a little better under the light. And let's see how they stack up with some other EDC knives. Let's, of course, start with some Kizers. And these are two that really kind of remind me of this in various ways. This is the Kizer Towser S, which is obviously considerably smaller. And we also have the very underrated Kizer Guru. And where I'm really getting the vibes from these two knives is really both in the handles. You kind of have that little extra bit of thickness in the handle on the Towser S, and then of course the lines, the actual outline of the handle, especially towards the bottom on the Guru, really does kind of remind me of the Bugai as well. So a few things there for reference. Now let's just go more to a straight size comparison. I think these two both stack up pretty well with it. The fantastic Kizer T1 as well as the Vosteed Raccoon. And if you're trying to decide between a button lock version or the crossbar version of the Raccoon, don't ask me because I don't think I could pick between either one of them. As you can see, it is a little shorter than both of these two, but I think both of these knives are very popular. Give you guys a good idea of just what we're looking at from a length standpoint. So there's that. Hope they did what they needed to do for you. And now let's talk about the knife. And of course, let's start with this blade because the moment I saw the picture of this knife on Instagram through Kizer's page, obviously, I thought it looked really good. There is something about the lines and how they balance. They're kind of like parallel lines. Like if you place this on, if you were drawing this up on a piece of paper, you would use a lot of the squares of the paper to keep this equal throughout the whole way and just add a little curvature on the handle. The back's nice and flat. I just really like how the knife is balanced from an angular standpoint, I guess is the best way to put it, or just kind of just a parallel standpoint from top to bottom. You don't have any part of the knife that's really too thick or too thin, and it just looks really well balanced to me. I really like that. like the fuller. I think it looks great. Now the fuller is not good for any type of deployment. You can't do it. I know you can see it, but yeah, you can't do it. It's not, I mean, you could technically pinch it, but you're not really using the fuller, you're just using the blade. So yeah, it's not really good for anything other than aesthetics, but it does look really good, especially the way it leads into that blade cutout. Now the blade cutout, that's a different story. Very, very useful, very, very nice. We'll talk more about that in the action portion. There's one difference, of course, outside of the color of these two Bugais that I really did notice, and that is the jimping. The jimping on the black wash version, in my opinion, has considerably more grip than the jimping on the stonewash version. Now that could just be like the actual finish of the blade, maybe makes for a little more kind of a rougher feel, I guess, as to where this does feel a little smoother. To be totally honest, I don't really find the jimping on the stonewash version to be very useful at all. Again, not the worst thing in the world, but I definitely do find the jimping on the black wash version with the 3V blade to be, in my opinion, more useful and definitely more purposeful in terms of why it's actually on the blade. But outside of that, when you get back to the edge of this knife, you have a very different and very fun edge to play with, especially if you want to really use your knife hard. You have a nice slicey flat here coming in around 19 thousandths, about 19 and a half thousandths. It's just under 20 thousandths. And then up here, you have a much thicker 27 to 28 thousandths. And let me tell you, there's nothing slicey about this tip. This tip is a chunker, it's a bruiser, and you know what? That's fine because you have the slicey element on the flat part of the blade. And then as you work your way up through the upper part of the belly, it just gets thicker and thicker and thicker, so you can really do some digging and maybe not prying. I would never pry with my knife blade, but unless you really, really had to. But some good digging, and to where you don't have to really worry about chipping the blade or do anything. I mean, I guess you could chip it, but you know, you can obviously work this a lot harder than you could a tip that's real dainty and razor thin. So some really nice elements to this, how they keep the kind of the brute factor up at the top and then the nice slicey factor along the flat of the edge. Really do like that. It's a nice grind. It has a very nice sharpening choil. I really like the sharpening choil on this. The plunge grind is pretty average for a budget knife. I wouldn't call it bad, but it's definitely not good. But at the same time, when you're spending, you know, $69 or $89 on a knife, the plunge grind, it kind of comes down to the buyer of just how much perfection you expect there. But again, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great. It's just very average. But at the end of the day, overall, and in terms of just this blade, I think it's a very good blade. It looks good. It does the job. It cuts really well. You have multiple deployment options. And again, aesthetics are a real big one for me on this. I think this is one of the better looking designs that I've seen this year, and I really mean that. I really like the character of this knife. Now, when you get into the handle feels pretty good. I'm noticing more and more now, as much as I love the ergos on something like a Shaman, where everything is just really contoured and just fits right in your hand perfectly, I also really enjoy a knife that has kind of a gap here to where, you know, especially with the curvatures on the handle down here, my 3 bottom fingers fit very well there, and I almost kind of feel choked up. I mean, maybe technically I am choked up because I think your regular grip is supposed to be right here, just like that, and that feels really good. I have no complaints on the feeling there, but I like to be choked up. I've noticed that. I just like to have a little more extra detailed control over the blade. And this feels really, really good to me. And I really do just love the curves on this handle. The little bit of a belly here, and then it swells up a little more down towards the bottom. And then this also feels very good. Kind of adds, if you ever really had to do some, really hard jabbing or something into a bag. This somewhat acts as like a finger guard because it goes really deep into the handle. So I just like that a whole lot. Clip is decent, nothing special, but I think it looks pretty good on the knife, so no issue there. Micarta is, again, just fantastic, especially this green. The way this green patinas, you get your nice dark spots. It's just excellent micarta, which is what I expect from Kizer. I'd be really disappointed if I got anything else from Kizer, to be honest, because I've had too much good micarta, and like right now my hands are actually sweating more than they usually do throughout the day. So you get that patina worked in there and you let the oil soak into it. you get some really, really nice smooth finishes on this micarta that just looks great. And if you want to speed it up, throw some mineral oil on there. But overall, I really do like these handles. I think they feel good. They are, yeah, they are contoured, so they do feel really good in hand. Just overall, a big fan of both the blade and the handle on this knife. And the action's also no slouch either. I have noticed, I don't think this is going to be something you can expect, but maybe it could be. I definitely feel like the detent on the Stonewash version is slightly softer than the version of the Blackwash 3V blade. And to be honest, neither one of them is too soft. If anything, I think some people might complain that the detent on the 3V Blackwash is too strong, but there's something that you really need to know about deploying this blade. It's really important, especially because the hole, especially if you're at the top, if you try middle finger flicking at the top of this hole, you're getting really close to the pivot. And the closer you get to the pivot, the harder it is to really break the detent and swing the blade out. Now, you can do it, and it comes out even harder, but the best way to middle finger flick this blade is keeping your middle finger down towards the bottom portion, and instead of flicking straight up, kind of flick out. Almost down, but almost straight out. And it feels better to me. I personally prefer that. It really comes down to the actual blade design and just how close the cutout is to the pivot and how big the cutout is and where you can put your finger on it, because that really does determine a lot. And that really varies from knife to knife. But I have no issue with the deployment on either one of these. I really am a fan of deploying this blade. And I definitely prefer, of course, you guys probably know this, the middle finger flick is really, really, really good on this. This is up there with some of the best knives, not only this year, but in recent memory in terms of middle finger deployment. Really, really like that. And then it is also very easy to thumb flick the blade out. Not my favorite way to deploy any blade with a cutout. I always prefer middle finger flick, but it's very doable on this knife, which I like because I don't do it a lot, but when I do and I enjoy the action on it, that's important to me, and I really do enjoy it on this one. So what you have here is an awesome blade with a very good edge, great design, very comfy handle with nice micarta, and phenomenal action. So yes, overall thoughts on this guy, it is a go. It is a full go. If you want to spend a little less, pick up the 154cm version. I think a lot of people prefer the Stonewash blade anyway. But the Blackwash 3V is also phenomenal. No issue with either one of these two knives. I would definitely recommend, if you like the way they look and you like middle finger flicking knives, you're gonna like these blades. They're pretty darn awesome. So there you go, guys, the Kizer Bugai. Let me know what you think of this. Really hope you guys enjoyed this review. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And until the next one, I'm out.